Hello children, how are you? Hope you read the lesson that I discussed in the previous video. So let us continue from there. We have seen how the British expanded their control over various parts of India. So after Bengal, we have seen that they conquered Mysore, and then they conquered the Marathas, and they got hold of several territories in India. And in many places, they placed puppet kings on the thrones, and they appointed residents to ensure that the governance is going according to their whims and fancies. They ensured that their interests are protected. Okay, so let us move from there. Let us see what else the company did to gain power over India. So under Lord Hastings, so Warren Hastings was the Governor General from 1813 to 1823. So they initiated another new policy. So that is called paramountcy. So when I say paramount, that means superior. It means superior. So what the company started claiming is that they said we are supreme. So we are above even these kings and kingdoms. So we are the ultimate masters of this country. So that is how they made their claim. And several rulers actually fought against the British. Okay, they did not accept the paramountcy claim of the British, and unfortunately they could not muster enough strength to fight the British, and many of them were defeated, and they were either imprisoned or killed. And one case we have is Rani Channamma, okay, of Kittur in Karnataka. She fought bravely with the British, but she was captured by the British in 1824, and she died in prison in the year 1829. Channamma is a less known figure, but we have other people, popular people like Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi. Most of you are well aware of her name. Okay, that also will come across later. Okay, so this is a statue of Rani Channamma. Okay, see, now this is not, so far we have seen what that they conquered Bengal, that is the eastern part of India. They conquered Mysore, that is the southern part of India. They conquered Marathas, that is the central part of India, and they expanded up to even Delhi and Agra. And in the northwest, they actually fought a war with Afghanistan between 1838 and 1842, and there also they established an indirect rule. Okay, and Sindh, Sindh is now in present day Pakistan. It was also taken over in the year 1843, and there was Punjab as well, but Punjab was ruled by a powerful king by name Ranjit Singh. He was a very brave king, and as long as he was alive, the British could not do anything. But after his death in the year 1839, the company fought two prolonged wars. That means wars that went on for a long time with the Sikhs. Sikhs are very brave people. You find them in military very very commonly. They are very brave warriors, but even these people were defeated by the British. And in the year 1849, Punjab was also annexed by the East India Company. So I'll show you maps a little later how the British expanded its power. Okay, so we have seen how they captured Bengal, that is the eastern part, then Mysore, that is the southern part, then Maharashtra, central and western part of India, then Afghanistan and Sindh and Punjab. In fact, the territories they got are more than the territories we have now. So they controlled not just present day India, but present day Pakistan and Afghanistan all went under the control of the East India Company. And we have another Governor General, Lord Dalhousie. He served as Governor General from 1848 to 1856. And this man devised one more policy. So we have seen, we talked about two things. What are they? Subsidiary alliance, then we talked about paramountcy. So Dalhousie came out with a new policy. So it is called Doctrine of Lapse. What is this policy? Under this policy, if any Indian ruler died without a male heir, then his kingdom was automatically annexed by the company. You know, in India, the first male child becomes the successor. We know, because women actually, they generally don't become rulers. Generally, the male, so this is called male progeny. So the male child of the king becomes the next king. If a king doesn't have a male child, so what the British did was they took away that kingdom under their control. Okay, and again in this manner they annexed so many small kingdoms. Satara, that is in Maharashtra now, Sambalpur, that is in Orissa, and Udaipur, that is in Rajasthan, Nagpur again in Maharashtra, and Jhansi in Madhya Pradesh. So I'm talking about present day states. So you can see that they have actually applied this doctrine of lapse to various kingdoms in several parts of India, and they annexed all these kingdoms under this doctrine of lapse. And we have seen that Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi, she fought very bravely. Even the Britishers who fought her were very impressed by her bravery. Okay, and so whatever be the name, whether it is subsidiary alliance, paramountcy, or doctrine of lapse, the objective of the British was only one thing: to gain control over Indian kingdoms. So in some cases, initially they placed puppet kings, and then they appointed residents. Gradually they started gaining direct control over these kings. Okay, and after these kingdoms were annexed, they went under the direct rule of the British East India Company. Okay, so this is a picture of Lord Dalhousie. Okay, so look at these maps. This picture is very, very important. I'll show you full screen. So look at this map. The yellow part represents the territories that were controlled by British. So this was in the year 1797. We have seen that they started expansion from here. After the Battle of Plassey, 1757, they started gaining control over Bengal. Look at this yellow part. So it was small. So they controlled Bengal. Okay, they controlled Bengal. Look at this. They controlled Bengal, maybe parts of UP, and they controlled parts of Orissa and Andhra Pradesh also. In fact, you can see that our area, our East Godavari, parts of our district, or maybe most of our East Godavari was directly under the control of the British. In fact, our region was one of the first regions to go under direct control of the British. Okay, and then you can see some parts here in Tamil Nadu and some here on the west, on the Malabar coast, and the rest of India was ruled by various kings. See, and then let us look at the second map. So this was in the year 1797. Look at the second map. So this was in the year 1840. So less than 50 years. So they expanded from Bengal up to this. In fact, they reached up to Delhi. Okay, all this yellow area was controlled by the British. Then here they defeated Marathas. All these territories went under their control. And Mysore, you can see it is still red, but actually it was controlled by the British. They placed a puppet kingdom. They placed a puppet king of Wadiyar dynasty that we have seen. Okay, this was in the year 1840. And look at this map, just 17 years. So now they controlled even more territories here, especially in the central part of India. They got many more kingdoms under their control. We already told you, like Jhansi, then Sambalpur. Okay, then we talked about Udaipur. We talked about Satara in Maharashtra. So all these went under the control of the East India Company. And look at this western part, northwest. Sindh, and then Afghanistan. All these areas also came under the control of East India Company. So look at this, 1797 and 1857. It's just a matter of how many years? 60 years. In 60 years, a large part of India went under the direct control of the East India Company, and many other regions were also controlled indirectly by the East India Company. Okay. So let us look at the administration. Let us look at the administration of the company. So Warren Hastings was the Governor General from 1773 to 1785. So far we talked about the political events, how the company expanded in various directions. Let us see how they governed the country. It is not enough to win over some territory. It is important to govern it, to run the government, to control the territory. So what did they do? So Warren Hastings became the Governor General, and he was the Governor. Warren Hastings was the Governor General from 1773 to 1785, and in that period, the British territories were divided broadly into 3 presidencies. You can say 3 states: Bengal, Madras, and Bombay. Bengal in eastern part, Madras in southern part, and Bombay in the western part. These 3 were the 3 important territories of the East India Company. And Warren Hastings introduced several administrative reforms. Administrative means related to the government. So we all have we all know, we are familiar with administration. We have state government, central government, local government. We have so many officials who run the government. Okay, the more you will learn more about this in your political science. Okay, so Warren Hastings introduced so many reforms. What is meant by reform? So when you change the existing rule and replace it by something better, we say reforms. Okay, sometimes the new practices may not be good, but generally we use the word reforms whenever we want to change the existing rules. So Warren Hastings did this. He introduced so many administrative reforms into the government of India. And one important area is, of course, the system of justice. So from 1772 onwards, a new system of justice was introduced. So what is this new system? Each district was to have 2 courts. You are familiar with courts. We have courts at district level. Even we have lower courts, and then we have high court, supreme court. So we have various kinds of courts. And this is a picture of Warren Hastings. Okay, so he established 2 courts in every district. So one court was meant for looking after criminal cases. One was meant for civil cases. And I hope you know the difference between civil cases and criminal cases. Criminal case means cases involving like killings, robbery, such things. Okay, and civil cases means cases involving property and other things. See, for example, how to divide the property, or any property dispute between 2 people. These come under civil cases. But wherever there is physical violence, or wherever theft, or wherever there is killing, they come under criminal courts. Now the Britishers have to administer justice. Okay, so they have to run police stations, they have to catch the criminals, they have to try them in courts. But they are unfamiliar with how it is done in India. They just cannot bring their system and implement it here. We have our own customs. Okay, so what they did was, they established 2 courts, criminal court and civil court. Criminal courts were known as Faujdari Adalats. Adalat means court. So criminal courts were known as Faujdari Adalat. They were overseen by Qazi and Mufti. They are like judges. Okay, they are familiar with the existing practices. Okay, and they were supervised by district collectors. Then civil court was known as Diwani Adalat, and these were again looked after by Maulvis and Hindu Pandits. See why we have two different people, Maulvis and Hindu Pandits? Because civil law is different for different people. That means Hindus have one kind of civil law, Muslims have different kind of civil law, Christians have a different kind of civil law. That means, for example, succession. For example, the property of the father was passed to his children in one way in Hindu tradition and in another way in the Islamic tradition. It is not the same. So what they did was they took the help of Hindu Pandits for looking after civil cases of Hindus. They took the help of Maulvis or Muslim Pandits for looking after the civil matters of Muslims. Okay, and they actually helped but the judgments were given by Europeans only. The judges were Europeans and they were helped by these Maulvis and Hindu Pandits. Please look at the whole thing carefully. The Britishers are not changing everything straight away. They are respecting our traditions and our customs, but they are taking everything into their control. They did not change everything. They did not say you follow European laws, you follow European customs. They know that thing will be very dangerous. If they say you have to follow our European laws, then there will be lot of revolt from Indians. There is no point. Why should they unnecessarily provoke the people? So what they did was they cleverly respected our customs. They administered justice based on our Hindu traditions, based on our Muslim traditions. They did not touch anything, but they followed they appointed our people and they controlled all the institutions, these courts. So even the names Faujdari Adalat and Diwani Adalat are Indian names. They are not, they did not call them as civil court and criminal court. They just gave the names Faujdari Adalat and Diwani Adalat. Okay. And now the problem for these British people is that they don't know our laws, they don't know our customs. So they said, okay, we must know all these things. So they appointed some Pandits to prepare all these Hindu laws and Muslim laws. And in 1775, they appointed 11 Pandits. They compiled all our Indian Hindu laws. And these were translated into English by N.B. Halhed. Okay, he is the person who translated our Indian laws into English. Now, once it is available in English, they need not rely on our Pandits. Now they have our texts in their language. They can read themselves and they can start giving judgments. Okay. And similarly, in 1778, the Muslim laws were also translated into English. Okay. Under the Regulating Act of 1773, they established even a higher court known as Supreme Court. So they established district courts, 2 courts in every district, Faujdari Adalat and Diwani Adalat, and they established a Supreme Court also in the year 1773. Okay. And what about the officials? The most important official was district collector. Okay, we are all familiar with district collector. He is a very important person. If Prime Minister is the most important person in the central government and Chief Minister is the most important person in the state government, in the district administration, the most important person is the district collector. And who created this post? It was the Britishers who started this tradition of revenue collectors, district collectors. So his job was, now ever wondered why the name collector was given? Collector means who collects the taxes. Of course, nowadays collector's job is more of law and order than collection of revenue. Okay, now their job is mainly law and order. So, but in the British period, their job is mainly to collect the land revenue, and of course they looked after the law and order, and it was very powerful. Even now, even today, the post of collector is very powerful in India. Is like the king of the entire district. Okay. So let us look at the last topic. This is about the military aspect. So the British rule in India was mainly based on military strength. Okay, and if you look at the Mughal army, it consisted mostly cavalry. Cavalry means horsemen, people who rode on horses carrying weapons, and infantry. That means soldiers, foot soldiers who walked. So they comprised the main army in the Mughal court, and especially they maintained the cavalry primarily. The soldiers, infantry, was supplied by the local jamindars to the Mughals, and East India also started recruiting army on the same lines in the same pattern, and they called them as sepoys. They called these soldiers as sepoy. It is an Indian word. Sepoy means a soldier, and from 1820 onwards, soldiers were given modern weapons like muskets and matchlocks. These are basically two types of guns. Okay, don't bother much. They are basically guns. Okay, and in the early 19th century, the British began developing a uniform military culture. We are all familiar with military culture. You know, it is very strict. They have to wear proper uniform. Every day they have to wake up early. They have to do all the march fast and everything. They have to undergo rigorous training every day. We are all familiar with the military traditions. And who introduced these things? It was the British who started this uniform culture. Okay, and they were subjected to European style of training, drill, and discipline. So what happened was, sepoys were recruited from all communities, all castes, and they have to live together. They have to share food, and they have to obey the company laws, the military rules. So that created problems to these sepoys. Somehow they could not accept the rules imposed by the East India Company, and when they felt quite discontented with the British rules, they revolted in the year 1857. We'll talk more about that in our future lessons. Okay, with that we come to the end of this chapter, and from trade to territory, how the East India Company expanded its power, we have seen in this video. Okay, the next video we'll do the end of the chapter questions, and we'll summarize one more time all the important points. Thank you.